It was time to make my way to Zora's domain to continue investigating Zelda's disappearance. But first... Yahaha! I hitched a ride on a stone to get the lay of the land, targeting my descent towards one of the higher peaks of this watery kingdom. Only the water wasn't looking so great. Hopping down from that ledge, I took a note of the blue tablet built into the mountain, then went towards the cherry blossom tree, now my regular routine whenever entering a new area. Backtracking towards the tablet, this seems to be the 5th entry of Prince Sidon's very public diary. This one, much like the Skull in Titano, is also recapping a portion of the previous game. Sidon has written about the Zora armor his sister, Mipha, crafted for her future husband. One day Link arrived, saved the day, which at the time was calming down the divine beast, and was gifted the armor for his brave deed. And it fit perfectly, as if Link was the person it was originally made for, because it was. Now deciding I wanted to read as many of these as I could, I beelined towards the next one I saw. Part 2 about how the legendary Princess Ruto protected Zora's domain with a Hyrulean princess and a legendary swordsman, and she is apparently Sidon's ancestor. The next, Part 3, in order for once, is about how Sidon's father, King Dorephan, taught them how to battle. Afterwards, I found Part 4, it detailed how when Sidon was little, a flood washed him away until he was saved by a young girl, Yona, and how from that day on, Sidon looked up to both Yona and Mipha. And then, one day, Dorephan announced that Yona was to be his bride. More on that in a bit. Next I found 8, I was no longer going in order, and read about Sidon's massive respect for Princess Zelda. This trail of tablets eventually led me into the city proper, where I ran into this green Zora woman. She requested that the statue be cleaned off. And since I still haven't learned how to throw items yet, I slung an arrow at it. And what does this reveal? That's right, a gigantic statue of Sidon being ridden by Link in the middle of town. Revered by all. Of Link riding Sidon. Afterwards, the Green Zora introduces herself. She, and I quote, says, "I am your best friend's fiancé." Now look, I get it. I can't say that I'm all that happy that Nintendo pushed Sidon into a heterosexual marriage, but Sidon has 2 hands. And heck, he commissioned a statue of himself being ridden by Link placed in the center of town. I can and will read into that. And while I'm on the subject, Link also has 2 hands, and it'll be good for more people to interrogate the monogamous culture that is prevalent in our world. Anyway, after introducing herself as Yona, she has a quest. Some time ago, Link requested the Zora armor be repaired, and all it needs now is an ancient arrow wanted to be fully completed. I already had one of those.
Whoa.
Now I'll be able to swim up waterfalls, at least those that aren't covered in gunk. Naturally, the first thing I did was to start climbing. There had to be something at the top of the humongous fish sculpture that tops the city's architecture, and I'm always right. Jumping down, I ran into yet another tablet, this time the first one. It details how Zoras are basically waterbenders. Around the corner, I see a suspicious hole. At the bottom is King Dorephan, but he's looking worse for wear. Apparently, shortly after the upheaval, Zelda descended from the sky along with a sludge monster and unleashed it upon the king. He defeated it but was gravely injured. Zelda disappeared without a trace. That doesn't sound like my Zelda. Making my way out, I swam up to where Yona said Sidon would be, Mipha Court. Sidon is more than enthusiastic to see his best friend again, but wishes times could be better.
It's good to see you, my friend.
Right now, his days are spent purifying the water that flows into Zora's domain to keep that awful sludge from hurting any more people. He also mentions how the historian Jihato might be able to help in the search for Zelda. Of course, before I seek out the historian, I make my way towards the tower. Outside was poor Baz, gunkified and unable to move. Shooting a water arrow right at him worked, though. He tried to give me a spear, but I didn't have the room, and continued into the tower. Note that the side quest did not complete. Once in the sky, I saw a big spinning orb. Love to see a big orb in the sky, so I had to check it out. Inside was another one of my favorite shrines. Fun with the gliders. Well, eventually. But really, here is where I started to master how this game works. Let a thing go, then rewind it immediately to hop on. It's real simple, but works real well. Next, I strung together a series of cards, not to slide with them, no, but so I could have a bridge, of course. Then I finished the puzzle proper, having so much fun with the truly OP rewind. Send the glider down there, grab a fan, put it on the glider, and then send the glider back. And now the glider has enough juice to make it to the end of this vast chasm. Afterwards, I constructed the same device to make my way towards where Sidon mentioned I should go, albeit with significantly less juice. But as I make my descent, I notice Terrytown in the distance. Can't wait to go see what they've gotten up to in the past few years. I fell towards the lake and met Chihato. He thinks this ancient stone slate is a clue. Unfortunately, a big chunk of it broke off. The piece was around the corner and gunked up, and I could slot it right back in. On it contained yet another riddle. Something about a skyfish, a droplet, and the mark of the king. Not sure about the other two. I did know who the king was, so I gave him a visit. He of course knew what the mark of the king was. They're his scales. He handed the swordsman 5 of them. He also told Link to relay his condition to Sidon. And I did just that, letting the prince know that Dorephan was attacked, and about the skyfish riddle. Now, if it hasn't been obvious, I am, of course, incredibly good at video games. So the first thing I did was pull out my map, toggle to the sky portion, and yep, that clump looks like a fish alright. And wouldn't you know it, it's pouring out a waterfall for Link to swim up. The whole place is a mess, but after cleaning up a bit, I notice all these floating chunks. And what I believe is the coolest gosh darn puzzle in this entire game, I walk around and see it, clear as day. I notch an arrow, secure the scale, and send it soaring through the droplet. And the magic imbued in this process creates a new marker in the lake. Heading back to Sidon, he's apparently in the middle of a lover's quarrel. Yona is asking he team up with Link, and trying to get at why he's been so troubled as of late. But before Sidon can respond, he's interrupted by the appearance of a sludge lake. Link and Sidon team up to defeat the enemy, or rather they would have, but I didn't. What the game wanted me to do was to use Sidon's water powers to degunk the like. Instead, I just shot it with water arrows. Regardless, the outcome was the same. The evil is defeated. And Yona yells at Sidon, telling him that she'll purify the water so that he can investigate the mystery with Link. At the lake, much like with Tulin earlier, Link and Sidon got a strange feeling. With nothing to do about that yet, Sidon goes for a swim and sees an entrance at the bottom of the lake. With no other option, he swims in circles, creating a giant whirlpool to make Link an opening. So I jumped in. Under the lake is the ancient Zora waterworks. Everything's very wet, making it hard to climb. To get up, I needed to raise the water level by clearing a pipe. This led to a large chamber with a suspicious column at the center. To get to it, I needed to clear more pipes. I even had to crawl through a neat sewer system. At the center was a Zonite terminal. By interacting with it, Link released a huge waterfall from some skylands high above the others. Sidon is as happy as can be, but then the duo get that feeling again, this time accompanied with a voice beckoning them towards the sky.
Come here.
And I listened. Following Sidon, I jumped into the waterfall. And with a whoosh, entered the sky island with low gravity. Such a cool twist. As I continued traveling higher, I made use of these water bubbles that I remembered seeing in one of the trailers, and swam up a series of standalone waterfalls to glide towards the next. The local shrine was also cool. Since it was high up, it too had low gravity and made use of the water bubbles. Then after some fun glider time, more fun with bubble physics, I met Sidon before yet another vast waterfall. At its crux, I finally entered the Water Temple. Similarly to the Wind Temple, this one had me go around and do a thing a few times. The voice spoke up once more, telling them to turn on the water to clear out the gunk.
Use your power to turn on the 4 faucets and you can collect water here.
And marked the required pumps on the map. The puzzles here were all fun with water physics. The first I found required getting a ball into a pool and then draining it so it could slot into a hole. And utilizing Sidon's water thing would activate the pump.
Yes, you got one flowing.
I'm not so sure how I feel about the game immediately marking the quest points on the map. It removes a lot of the exploration from the temples themselves, but the game as a whole isn't lacking in that department. Regardless, I liked this puzzle where I had to shoot into the fast-spinning dreidel. And yet another had a harsh reminder about batteries. These things float indefinitely until Link interacts with them, and when the battery runs out, they fall in unison. It was neat sticking it up against the hole, though. Finally, I had cleared out all the pumps. It was time to clear out the gunk. and out pops this little guy. It's called a Mukdarok, which feels dirty. We beat him up. He explodes. Sidon touches the secret stone. And the two meet a sage back from when Rauru was still kicking. She tells us of the ancient battle between the evil demon king Ganondorf. How afterwards, a figure known as Zelda, who looks a lot like Zelda, told her that Ganondorf will one day awaken, and how she promised that the new sage would lend Link their strength. Well, Sidon, the new sage, accepts this deal, summons a cool spirit Sidon, and through the power of handshakes, note the focus on hands, grants Spirit Sidon to Link. And wait, that all sounded pretty familiar. That was just the last one, huh? Other than the POV, I don't think there was any difference, really. But with Mukdarok's defeat, still sounds off, all the sludge disappears from the land. Dorephan is cured, the water is cleansed, and Sidon is crowned the new king. And that's going to be where this diary log will conclude. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you thought of the Water Temple in the comments. And while you're here, maybe leave a rating or subscribe to be notified of everything that I put out. Or if you'd like to read my thoughts, you can follow me on my social medias where I'm at Mario8th everywhere. Links to each are in the description. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Now let's watch me die a couple times.